Traditions and customs are national treasure. Kazakh people observe traditions over many centuries. The Great Steppe is an amulet of the country. You can watch the customs and traditions of the Kazakhs in the Modern Nomads program. Folk music art is closely connected with folk history, culture, traditions, and the world as they complement and enrich each other. Kazakh academician Ahmet Zhubanov described it in the following way. Old wisdom is kept in the folk instruments for many centuries. As we know, Kazakh folk art is one of the important fields which is rich with history and formed in ancient times, developed and preserved till today. Therefore, the tradition of folk art can be seen clearly with harmony.
Қазақ халқының музыкалық өнері қазақтың тұрмыс салтымен қоршаған орта.
The musical art is associated with the way of life and customs of the Kazakhs, the environment and nature. Cue compositions, which are written for the dombra, kobuz, sibuzgi, are closely connected with nature and are full of secrets.
Мысалы, аққудың қанатының суылдауы, аққудың ұшуы аспанға, одан кейін мына аттың шабысы, осы сияқты дүниелердің бәрі мына біздің алғашқы халық күйлер дейміз ғой, ертедегі аңыз күйлерде.
For example, the flying swan to the sky and the galloping horse were reflected in their original cue compositions and melodies, and all of them conveyed by the melody of the cue composition. We have perceived the world as a whole world with nature, and if you listen attentively to the history of the cues, all of them are as the whole world.
Жаңағы біздің күйлердің өзінің тарихында да қарап отырсақ, осының бәрі астасып келіп отырады.
Zatayevich, who collected the heritage of the songs and music of the Great Steppe, have mentioned the following words. Dombra is the most popular and widespread musical instrument of the Kazakh people. This instrument can be found in every Kazakh family, and each person is able to play a cue composition and sing a song on it. Probably therefore the famous scientist Potanin appreciated highly and said, "I feel like the whole Kazakh steppe is singing." The folk art is as a whole life full of songs and music, and the Kazakhs use the music in all events of life. For example, taking a bride is the tradition also included in folk music. It is called bitashar. Mostly the men or poet-singers open the face of the bride with a dombra. Meanwhile, in those times, bitashars were opened with a cue as well. Bitashar was accompanied with a dombra, and cue compositions were usually played. For example, there was a wonderful dombra player, Altanay, in the western Kazakhstan. Only one cue composition of Altanay was kept till today. It is Akzhilen cue. The cue composition is melodious. There was information as Altanay asked permission to open her own bitashar with Akzhilen cue. It indicates the popularity of the cue and its uniqueness, as through the cue the musician is able to convey her feelings to the listeners. There were a few skillful performers of the cue composition who used the language of the cue to describe our traditions in the Great Steppe. When the hard times came, men could express all their anxiety through the sounds of the two strings. Kazakhs have traditions to report the death through the cue composition. Mostly they were performed by respected people as bees or aksakals. However, there are a lot of those who reported the sad news with the help of zhoktao and the sad melody. The Kazakhs have a tradition of performing zhoktao. When a person left to a different world, any Kazakh could immediately write a poem about the best qualities of this person and accompanied with crying. Sometimes dombra players informed of sorrowful news with the help of a dombra. For example, when Shokan Alekhanov died, a famous sibizgi player informed of his death by playing a sad melody on his instrument. There was a time when there wasn't any words, only music was heard. For example, Chinggis Khan had a son, Joly, who died suddenly. Nobody dared to report the incident to Genghis Khan and performed a zhoktao. and then an old man named Ketbuga took the dombra and performed the cue Aksak Kulan, so the Khan was informed about the tragedy that happened to his son. You will be able to hear Joktao melody in the sound of cues. This tradition was observed for a long time, almost till the last century. It is a tradition to express joy and sorrow moments in life through cue compositions in the Kazakh steppe, and it is one of the great arts. There were people who lived with art. Among them were talented girls in this art, but also tried to ensure that their future husbands were people of art. They married their rivals in the performance of cues, who won them in contests. They also sent their children to music art. There are a lot of legends and stories which were written about them. As per legend, once upon a time there was a poor man with only one camel. The colt died immediately after birth. The camel was the only help for the poor family. Further, the milk of camels started to vanish. Of course, the situation was bad for the family, which used the camel milk. One day, the young lady of this family said to her father, "Father, tell everyone who can keep the milk of this camel with the help of a cue, I'll marry him." If we think about the girl, she wanted to help the family in order for the camel to give milk, and in another side, who could make the camel keep the milk? I would marry that man. 3 wayfarers came to their house. One of them was an older man and the others were young. Only the sound of the dombra was able to help the camel. They asked to let them play cue compositions between each other one by one. And they had their own agreement: if one of them was to help soften the udder of the camel, they will marry their daughter, as it was the wayfarer's requirements. The turn to play the cue composition came to the elder wayfarer. He played the cue composition. When the elder wayfarer started to play the cue composition, tears came to the camel's eyes and its udders started to fill with milk. But the girl did not want to marry him as he was older. She held the camel's udder and hid the milk. The next turn came to the young wayfarer. He had played his cue composition. At this moment, the girl took her hands from the camel's udder and it was full of milk. The milk started to flow. Regarding the agreement, the girl and the young wayfarer were going to marry. The elder wayfarer noticed the cunningness of the girl and told to the young man, "Be happy, my dears, but I helped the camel to soften its udders. If you do not believe me, let's play the cue composition and 2 of us should go to the 2 directions. What will a camel do then?" The camel cried and followed after the older wayfarer. Our nation has an educative history which created the great civilization and art of the great steppe, the unique custom traditions and culture. Our ancestors who had battle lives since they protected the big territory of our land also expressed it through the music, and it remains till today. Powerful cues and spiritual jir gave the strength and helped warriors to fight with enemies and won them.
ертеде мысалы аңға шығатын кезде аңшылық кәсіппен де байланысты болған. Өздерін бір арнайы бір
Percussion instruments were also connected with hunting. They had their own rhythms. Therefore, they were used during the hunting. Later, during the battle period, drums and dangara were used in order to lift the spirit of the warriors. There were music compositions which gave power to the army during the battle. They inspired and gave spirit to them. There were great epos compositions which supported warriors during the battle.
Жыраулар үлкен салалы жырлардан немен болса бір халықтың рухын көтеретін, әскердің бір әскери рухын соғысқа бір дайындау үшін сондай бір жырлар болған. Сол сияқты кейінгі бұл ертеректе болған. Кейін бұл дүниеге күйді де пайдаланған.
Regarding the singers, we were able to listen to them. For example, during Ablai Khan's time, special dombra player compositions before the battle and bees came to discuss the strategy. They said, "The words are exhausted, let's listen to the cue." And they listened to inspirational music. The Kazakhs were fighting spiritually, and they were inspired. Then there was a time when they said, "Wait, the conversations are over, now it's time for a cue." At that time, the Kazakh cue compositions had special power.
Сонда мына күйдің құдіреті қазақта ерекше болған.
A famous musicologist, Bolat Saribayev, said, "The history of the Kazakh people is full of amazing events. Such stories will keep in the soul of people who lived at the same time in that environment, forever remained in the people's memory. And the culture has always been closely connected with history. All aspects of social life were reflected primarily in cues and songs." The scientists concluded their observations.
Кеңес деген күйлер бар мысалы. Кеңес деген күйді билердің кеңесінде тартқан. Сонда
The cue composition Kines was played in the Council of Bees. The major problems were resolved there as land problems, widows, and some problems between people.
Кеңес күй арқылы тартып отырады дейді. Сонда билердің тартатын күйлер болған кеңес деген. Ол көп, мысалы Алтайдан Атырауға дейінгі біздің ұланғай далада көп қаншама.
And there were cue compositions that were played by bees. The Kines cue was played from Altai till Atrau. There were some cases when bees explained the situation through the Kines cue, and that became heritage.
Меңзеп, нені айтқалы тұрған, нені жеткізу керек, ойды жеткізуін билер бір-бірімен күй арқылы да түсінген.
Cue has the ability to touch the listener's soul and awaken the conscience. The most interesting fact, other living things, animals on earth as birds in the sky, they all listen to the mysterious sounds and experience extraordinary feelings at the same time.
Тәттімбет өзінің астындағы боз ат.
People told us Tatimbet made his horse dance. This story came to us owing to the witnesses of those events. And there lived another cue player, Baisirke, in the Jitisu region, whose horse also danced to the cue composition.
Мысалдар көп.
In ancient times, the Kazakhs communicated and understood each other through the music of the cue. The Dombra players understood without words the compositions that they performed. Singers have absorbed the traditions of the people all their lives and constantly improved their playing skills on the Dombra. It happened that the colt which lost the mother survived due to the sounds of a cue. Our ancestors, Sugir, through playing the cue, Tel Konir, forced the mare to take and feed 2 fowls. Toligen Mombekov told us this cue is titled as Tel Konir. Art develops where is spiritual connection and where is a competition of masters. The whole life of the Kazakhs consists from the demonstration of art. Numerous arrangements of cues which reached us in the form of legends, competitions between guys and girls, between Kazakhs and Kyrgyz, and other musicians contributed to the development of this ancient art.
Күй сайыс, күй тартыс дейміз. Күй тартысында сонда әр рулардан күйшілер келіп өзінің мықты шеберлігі.
We talk a lot about Dombra players' competitions. In ancient times, there were organized competitions of Dombra players from different clans and tribes who showed their skills. The Kazakhs especially had a lot of competitions for the implementation of cues between a girl and a boy.
Жаңа айтып кеттік. Сыр өңіріндегі мысалы Әлшекейдің күй тартысы қызбен. Сол сияқты тағы көптеген мысалдар келтіре береді.
For example, somehow between our great cue player Tatimbet and a girl from the Naiman tribe participated in a cue competition. Sirdarya region is well known with Al-Shike's skills of playing on the dombra. During the competition, all musicians played equally. Only Tatimbet won as he played with his toes. And there are a lot of such examples. The girl, according to Muslim customs, are not allowed even to raise her legs. That's why Tatimbet won the competition.
Қазақтың дәстүрі бойынша аяғын көтеруге болмайды, аяғын көрсетуге болмайды. Сондықтан да жеңілуге мәжбүр болған.
The real composition touched the heart of listeners. The masters who make the heritage instrument of our ancestors have a special respect among the people, and their works are appreciated in a high way.
Бұл аспап жасау деген сала Қазақта әсіресе мынау ән өрілмен тығыз байланысты.
The field of production of musical instruments is closely connected with the art of songs and the performing skills of the dombra players. There were few siri, and they mastered 70 species of art, as the art of fighting, the art of a rider, hunting, and hunting birds. Siris could make their own instrument, they sing songs and compose cue compositions. In ancient times, they made a musical instrument for themselves. They did not go to the jewelers or other masters except to decorate their instruments.
Ерекше бір көркемдейтін тұстар болмаса, басқа кезде зергерлерге, шеберлерге көп жүгіне бермеген.
Folk musical instruments systematically explored and revived and later promoted by musical art critic Bolat Saribayev. The scientist described this art with the following words. The musical instruments are inherent in a certain people by their name, structure, shape and form, patterns and ornaments, and sound. They demonstrated to the world the art of this particular people.
Жиырмадан аса түрге бөлген Дәркембай аталарымыз, басқа кісілер, Болат ағаларымыз, Сарыбаев. Енді бірақ негізгі тоқтаған кезде осы уақытқа дейін 3 түрлі деп айтылатын.
Our ancestor Darkambai and the scientist Bolat Saribayev identified 20 types of dombras. There were 3 types of the instrument till our days. These are Kozi Kuryuk, Tamshi, Tumar. The 4th is titled as square-shaped. Here are all 4 types. This one is Kozi Kurik. It is used in Sari Arka. Modern classical forms of the instruments are created from this. Tamshi is a dombra which was played by Dina and Kurmangazi. The shape of this instrument looks like a drop. This dombra belonged to Mahambet. It is widely used in western Kazakhstan. Numerous modern classical cues were born owing to this dombra. This square-shaped instrument is made similar to a bai's dombra. There are 3 strings on it. This dombra is widely spread in Jitisu and Saryarka regions. Then we have a tumar, which is a triangular-shaped dombra instrument. Birjan Sal, Akan Seri, played exactly on such a dombra. The musician Madi also played a similar dombra.
Және бұндай домбыралар кейінгі мына мәдилердің ұстаған домбыраларда суреттер табылды ғой, сол кезде де осы домбыралар.
Constantly, the travelers and explorers who visited the Kazakh land, Potanin, Alektrov, Rybakov, Satayevich, Sivichev, showed their admiration for Kazakh music and gave such high opinions and scientific importance. Especially German researcher Eghorn published a large research work which consists of 196 pages and was entitled as Kazakh Music. It contains notes and songs, cues, and his own observations. Our art was appreciated and recognized not only in our country, but also by scientists from other countries and people as well. Now many foreigners have interest in our music as well.
Шетелге осы күнде осы отырған жерімізден тапсырыс беріп алып жатқандар да бар. Интернеттен үйреніп ойнап жүрген.
There are a lot of foreigners who appreciate our art, and they gave us order of a dombra, and they learned to play it on the internet, although they do not know the Kazakh language. The numbers of people who master this art has increased.
Ұлытау бар, басқа да топтарымыз бар, домбыраны жақсы насихаттады. Германияда, Австрияда, Сонан кейін Канададан келіп бір тапсырыс беріп алған жігіттер бар. Жаңа ойнап сол домбыраны.
As in 2005, the dombra was included in the list of World Material of UNESCO. Since then, Uli Tao and other groups have actively promoted the dombra, and the dombra has become popular. Even there were guys from Canada who came to order and buy the dombra. Dombra instrument is appreciated by Kazakhs who live in China. And then the Kazakh people in Turkey, they mastered the dombra instrument very well and promoted it among other people. Constantly, the dombra has become popular.
Үлкен деңгейге шығарып жіберді домбыраны. Сонан кейін бұл өте жақсы танымал болып тұр қазір.
The dombra instrument is heritage of the Kazakh nation, as the sounds of the great steppe come through the strings of the dombra.